This is Global Study Talks, the podcast of educations.com.
Hi, Annarita. Welcome to
Hi,
Global Study Talks.
thank you for having me. It's so nice.
I am so happy you're here. You're a person who has honestly traveled a lot, lived in a lot of countries, who
Yeah,
really encompass the European perspective.
yeah,
With that being said, you're Italian, but you were
yeah,
born and raised in Germany, and then you've
yes.
been to a lot of countries to study abroad. So tell me a little bit, give me a little bit of a summary of your life.
So, yeah, as you said, I'm Italian. Both of my parents are Italian. They immigrated from the south of Italy to Germany, and I basically stayed in Germany until I was 20 years old. Then in 2019, I moved to Amsterdam, where I studied 3 years my bachelor in media and information at the Universiteit van Amsterdam. Of course, that journey was a little bit interrupted with COVID, but not too much. So I'm glad I had that experience. After that, I still stayed a little bit in Amsterdam, collecting some work experience. And then I thought, okay, maybe it's time for a change again. Let's go back to the roots. And so I moved to Rome to do a master's course here in Rome at the Rome Business School. And I'm here now ever since. So let's see, I'm still juggling between Italy and Germany, but yeah, those were like my three spots here in Europe where I lived or still live.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. And it's also a success story of, studying somewhere and then going back home, but then also like coming back, going to a different country and
Hmm.
actually living there. So
Yeah.
that's an incredible perspective. First of all, I mean, did you always know that you wanted to study abroad and live abroad, perhaps? Or did that just come about?
Yes. So actually, I would say I always knew that I want to study and live or have my experience in a big city. So in Germany, I grew up in a smaller town, which was really nice. It gives you a lot of opportunity with your childhood and security, a sense of security. But I always loved traveling to big cities, and like maybe I was a bit influenced by back then all these YouTubers or TV shows with the big city life. So I always knew I want to live in a big city. Um, and then the more I started traveling, I always was like, wow, okay, I really want to study abroad or have this experience to live abroad. And of course, university is, I think, the greatest way to actually live that experience if someone wants to live abroad. So that's about it. Like I always felt that. So after my high school ended and I was looking to things to do, I was looking at a lot of countries, but then eventually I went to the Netherlands for a holiday and immediately I was like, this is pretty nice. I think I want to live here. Like I want to study here. And I talked to some people that I already met there about the university experience, and that just gave me the last push to say, okay, I will come here and start this journey of living abroad.
That is so cool. And it's actually so interesting because I think every person I ask, how did they actually, decide which country they wanted to go to? It's always a completely different story. It's either
Yeah.
they've traveled there or they saw the university or they wanted the program or like their friend was there. So a lot of different things. And
Hmm.
it's really fun, I think, being able to have that firsthand experience before you go to the country. That was something I didn't
Yeah.
have, for example. I
Yeah.
moved abroad. I had no idea. I had barely been outside of my home country. So that was a complete jump, but it's super interesting. And with that being said,
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you so you knew you wanted to go to the Netherlands because you had traveled
Yeah.
there. How did you find the program that you studied specifically?
So I already knew that I wanted to go in that sort of media science direction, or I was also thinking about marketing. So basically, I just Googled the main universities in Amsterdam and I was looking at their program. I wanted to go into humanities or social studies. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted. So I just looked at the program and to be honest, I just went with what felt best for me and my intuition. And of course, you look at the programs, okay, what could be interesting, less interesting. And then something I also did is I was trying to find, I mean, 2019, TikTok was not yet that big of a deal like it was now, but I was lucky because on YouTube, I found people who actually did the program that I did or went to the same university. So
Oh,
I was
wow.
looking them up, looking their videos. I also tried to reach some people, not everyone responded. Even if they didn't do exactly the program I wanted to do, I thought it's such a great way to like get firsthand experience, like because I feel like in every big cities there must be some YouTuber or vlogger or influencer attending that university that I'm attending. So you might do a little bit of digging, you might find someone and you see totally different perspective. And that, like when I found this YouTuber who was talking about the university and the program, I was like, oh my God, okay, cool. I will do this one. And that's how it went. Yeah.
That really does go to show how important like being in touch with
Yeah.
other students is who have studied abroad. And that's also the reason why we're doing this podcast, right? To bring these student
Mm-hmm.
experiences to the forefront, because a lot of students don't really, they're so uncertain about what the process looks like and how people
Yeah.
feel and what happens after and what happens before and what happens during. So all of these experiences, being able to have a platform for this is
Mm-hmm.
so important.
If you like go look up online, try to find someone, it's the closest that you can get. I feel like also nowadays with TikTok, where everyone is becoming a little vlogger, it's more easy to find these people or to see these perspectives. Like I see it nowadays, or when I went to the Rome Business School, everyone was just vlogging about it. So I
Yeah.
think that's a great tip to share out there as well. That helped me a lot.
During the discovery process, apart from, these influencers, and before you even get to that stage, to be able to discover the
Mm-hmm.
program and the university you want to study at, it's really important to have a place that you can like rely on
Yeah.
and know that whatever you're looking for is going to be there. And that's also
Yeah.
what we're really trying to do on educations.com. We have a centralized platform with over 100,000, I think it is, programs, study abroad programs from around the
Mm-hmm.
world. And the goal is to help students find this information in a much easier way. When I was looking for my university, I I struggled so much. It was like a million tabs open on my browser. I was waking up with anxiety every day.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think you can
Mm.
relate to that. It's a very intricate process when researching to study abroad, right?
Especially as you said, if you're lucky enough to have people around you who already been through that experience, that's great. In my case, I really didn't have anyone. So as you said, you might feel a bit overwhelmed and lost. So having like platforms like this one or other people to reach out to, I think it's a great plus to like calm you down a little bit and to actually give you some direction.
So you studied in the Netherlands and then
Yes.
you decided to work there.
Yes.
So what was that process like? Take me through that.
So my very first job in the Netherlands was just for the cause of earning some money. So I just took what I could get in the hospitality, which is something I really love doing as well. And then I did my first year, and then unfortunately COVID hit. So I was actually forced to go back to Germany for a couple of months. And through my friends, I actually found out that there was like an emerging startup who were looking for working students. And so I was like, okay, why not? And I just applied. And thanks to that position, I was able to go back to the Netherlands with like a purpose. Because in my mind, I was like, okay, if I will have to study online, I had a small room and I don't really have a routine. I was kind of afraid going back to the Netherlands and also being sort of lonely because all of my friends from university, we were all international. So a lot of people just went back home. But thanks to that position and that job, I actually had a reason to go back again and to have like my routine. And luckily, like I've stayed with them for almost 3 years, even after I finished my degree. So that was a great opportunity that just came within the realms of my education, my bachelor's. I was able to take this working job, and then life just went from that. And I think that was great. It was a great opportunity that I'm really still super grateful for.
I
Hmm.
know that like it can really influence your journey abroad, your journey as a
Yeah.
student, your
Yeah.
professional. Like, do you think that that had an impact on your professional life today, for example?
Yes, for sure. Because I was always coming with this dream of living in a big city. I always craved a bit this international community, and I knew that I want to work also in an environment where that is like enforced. And so back then, when I reached out to my employer, and I could tell that he was also sort of maybe not impressed, but it should certainly gives you a little bit of an advantage or a go to see, okay, wow, like this girl moved away from her hometown and you're here like on your own and you want to take a job in like our country, in our culture. And like I feel like subconsciously maybe it makes people go like, oh, okay, that's brave, that might says something about your character. Of course, if you're not doing this, you can still
Yeah.
be a super brave person. That's not what I'm meaning, but I feel like it gives you a little bit of push in the work environment, especially since today it's really competitive as well.
Yeah, I really do think that. And it is, like you said, it's an act of bravery to some extent to be able to
Mm-hmm.
take that step by yourself without really having a support system or having connections or having people there that can help you in that sense. It's you're
Yeah.
going out all by yourself. And I think that does speak to some degree about people's characters and people's willingness to go, to change, to
Mm-hmm.
be different people.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you were in Amsterdam, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Big city, right? Lots of people.
Yeah.
But there is that feeling you mentioned sometimes when you're abroad of this fear of being lonely,
Yeah.
right? Did you ever feel that? What was your perspective on this?
So, yes, I did feel that, especially towards the end. And so, this is one very big lesson that I learned that I took with me to Rome is when I moved to Amsterdam, thanks to the university, thanks to the program, there was a lot of opportunity to meet people, and I established some beautiful friendships that I still have today. However, sometimes we tend to forget that university does end at some point. And especially if you're like in this international field, a lot of people maybe move abroad again, or they go home, or they do a master somewhere, or they get a job in a different city. So, something that I didn't do back then, and what I did now in Rome, and what I is really my advice that I tell to everyone who's moving, it doesn't matter if you're moving abroad or just simply to another city, to try to build a little bit of a circle or to find some friends even outside university, so that when this chapter of your life ends, which was beautiful, you still find yourself with people around you, maybe because of other things, maybe because of a hobby or your job or something else. And this was a very big lesson that I learned, because when university ends, most of my friends, they moved back, and I was like, oh, okay. Okay, I have a full-time job now, which was great, but which takes a lot of time as well. And then it was a bit harder to build friendships. That was the moment towards my end in Amsterdam, where I still had this feeling of loneliness, but it wasn't there during university. So,
The reason why I brought this up is because this is a relatively common sentiment,
mhm.
amongst people who study abroad. Like, I think the universities, the international universities, do give you the ability to meet new people all the
Yeah.
time. But sometimes, being away from your family
Mhm.
or away from your childhood friends, like sometimes that does take a toll on you. But I think it's also really important to note that there are so many resources when it comes to mental health in different
Mhm.
international study abroad communities, right? With that being said, what would you say was the biggest hardship you had?
I think the biggest hardship for me is like a mix of this loneliness, but also like a financial aspect. Is I knew every time I was confronted, for example, with a health issue or I needed to go to the doctor, that caused so much anxiety for me, because, okay, thanks to like programs or university, you do have healthcare, you are informed about these things, but something about having a struggle with your health, going to a doctor in a different country, which is not your native language, feels so weird. It's related to a lot of things like, oh, but my family's not here. Maybe I just have a flu or whatever. But every time you do get sick or have some sort of worry about that, that was for me like one of the biggest struggles, because there's also the fear attached that maybe I should go back, or maybe I am not ready to live on my own and confront all this stuff. So I moved to the Netherlands, and suddenly you have to know so much things, and you have to do your taxes, and yeah, okay, we are we are adults, and we do need to grow up. But if you're doing it for the first time, it it's a bit
It
anxious.
is, it is. And I
Yeah,
don't think anyone would expect that, we immediately adjust to it. Like it
yeah,
takes time, it takes effort, and eventually we get there,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
always light at the end of the tunnel in this case.
that's true. That's true. You will go there, yeah.
On that note, what would you say is the best thing you've taken from your studying abroad?
I think it's my friends.
Yeah.
I have met some beautiful people, even people that maybe today I don't speak to them anymore, because sometimes in uni, not everyone becomes your best friend. You just might go out sometimes, but these are still people I sometimes think about, and I think about what they're doing, or I'm curious about what they're doing, and you just like get so much motivation. I'm someone who gets a lot of motivation from other people. Um, Being like, oh wow, like 5 years ago we all studied the same thing, and now you're doing this, or now you live there, and it's sometimes really nice to like follow along their journeys. Maybe they don't even know that I'm watching. But like, I think these interactions with people that I had living abroad, I feel like those were moments that I could not recreate back home, which I mean, is totally normal. Every place brings new opportunities. But I guess that's like one of the main things that I took from there. And on a personal note, I think the fact that I did it is also like, when I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, you moved like 3 times on your own, and you handled all that health and taxes anxiety on your own. And I'm like, wait, why do I worry even now? Like, I can do this. So that is like a big thing for me. Yes.
That's so inspirational, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so true. The people you meet, when you study abroad, you get the opportunity to meet people from all around the world, from all different walks of life, people that you would not be able to meet
Yeah.
if you had stayed in your hometown, in your university, in your country. It
Mm-hmm.
totally like broadens your horizons in
Yeah.
that way. Would you say that studying abroad has helped you personally today? Like in terms of dealing with issues, in terms of like knowing yourself differently, like what has been that
Mm-hmm.
impact that studying abroad has had on you?
Yes, definitely. Because I mean, for one, a very logical effect is it helped to improve my English. It helped to improve me in other languages as well. I took a Dutch course. I learned a bit of Dutch. I spoke a bit of Dutch, a language that I would have normally never like studied if I would sitting in Germany or in Italy. But and I feel like that is, for one, like a very practical benefit that you get if you live abroad, of course. And yeah, the next, like, it really helped me. So basically, studying abroad really brought me to my limits in a lot of situations. It could be housing, as I mentioned, health. It could be financial struggles, because at one point you're, oh my God, I'm in a foreign country and I have like 10 euros left for the rest of the month. Like, like all these struggles that you encounter because you are abroad, and because you are so far away, maybe from your family or from your friends or from your usual environment. It really brought me to my limits that I may have never reached if I wouldn't do this step. And I think these limits, even though back then they seemed like the end of the world, as I said, now I'm like, okay, this can happen again, but it's fine, because I've been there, I've done that. So I think that was like the most thing that shaped also a bit of my personality, because now, if I when I did it again for the second time, moving to a different country, or even if I would move back, I'm like, okay, like I see things a little bit more chill, because at the end of the day, they're not that serious. Like,
Exactly.
no one's gonna come and get you. Like, yes, you are in a different country, but you still have people around you. You are not at the end of the world. You can always go back. You always have someone. So that's definitely a philosophy I try to apply also to the rest of my life if something's happening, or
I feel the exact same way, honestly, the exact same way. I think it really puts things into perspective, and you realize that it is never that
Yeah,
deep. It's never the
yeah,
end of the world. And as long
yeah,
as long as you build that like support
yeah.
system and people who you can like trust and rely on and build that
Hmm.
community for yourself, which I think is
Yeah,
really, really easy when you're studying
exactly.
abroad, it
Yeah,
can be super helpful
for
for you.
sure. One big thing that I always tell to people, so I used to be a person, and maybe I still am, that actually ironically hates change. So I don't like changing things. Like I love my routine and I love to stay in a place. Like but like these moving around and new people really helped me to overget that fear of change, because basically I'm afraid of changing because things could get worse. But yeah, I mean that also really helped me, like this whole process. Like now I'm more chill when there are changes in my life that you maybe don't expect. Yeah.
Talking about changes, it's a little like a little theory of mine, okay? A little
Hmm.
case study I want to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before going abroad, before studying abroad,
Hmm.
would you consider yourself to be more of like an introvert or an extrovert? And do you think that that has changed because of your studies abroad?
Um, Actually, I always felt like I was an introvert, but an extrovert by choice. I don't know if that
Okay,
makes sense.
okay,
Like I
yes.
could, yeah, I could do both, but definitely being abroad really forced me to be more into my extroverted role, because you just have to talk to people, you have to meet new friends, like you have to get out of the house, you have to make new experience, and you still can do that even if you're like an introverted person. But if there's so many people and so many nationalities, and I was like, okay, you have to be a bit you have to be a bit louder, you have to like a bit show yourself, because otherwise you will miss a lot of opportunities, doesn't matter if university or work or friends. So definitely studying abroad definitely also changed me in a way of that, of being more extroverted. Yeah, for sure.
These environments really do like affect you in that way. And the reason I'm
Yeah,
asking is because like socialization is such a big part of studying abroad.
yeah.
And I know that people really do get influenced. Like it's like you said, you know, you
Hmm.
have to go out, you have to meet new people. And
Yeah,
it's not necessarily like someone's forcing you, but it's
yeah,
kind of like the the intuitive thing to do as soon as you're there. Like you see all these
exactly.
people, you have all this completely new environment,
Hmm.
and it just makes sense for you to be out and to meet people
Yeah,
all the time. And this does generally, from my perspective, lead to people feeling more extroverted than they did
yeah.
previously. So it's really nice to get that perspective as well. With that being said, do you have any tips that you would suggest to incoming students studying abroad?
I mean, yeah, I mean, the first tip, as I mentioned earlier, is try to build your social circle. Build it in the university, because that is going to be very useful and it's going to make your time great. And I'm sure a lot of beautiful friendship will nourish from that. But friendship and social circles and community need work. So don't always get too caught up with university. I mean, of course, that's also a big part, but also try to look around you, try to look at your neighbors, or maybe start soon to find a hobby that's maybe outside of the university bubble. I mean, I'm sure a lot
Mm.
of universities, and you probably also talk about this, offer a lot of beautiful programs that someone should definitely take into account, but still always try to look around of that and to find people outside of that, because it will also give you another new perspective, not only from people from the university. And second, I mean, there's one reason why I almost didn't go to study abroad, and that is because of the language, because I was never that amazing in English, and I knew the studies would have been in English, so I was like, no way I can do a whole bachelor degree in English, like, but just do it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, one thing that kind of helped me down with this language anxiety is like before I went to study abroad, I ordered a couple of books or I watched some videos related to the topic that I was about to study. And I try to always mark down the words I didn't know, and that helped a bit. And then, of course, when I got there, I struggled with the English in the beginning, and it's totally normal. But you're firstly not the only one, for sure. And then it just comes with time. So don't let that hold you back. I feel like, especially nowadays, we have so much opportunities to learn a language and to improve our language skills. So it will be fine.
You are right. Like it's a big struggle for so many people. The language barrier, depending on the country you go to. It's like, it's insecurities, it's fears, it's uncertainty. As a little ending note, what would you say is the best memory from your year studying abroad?
Oh my God, there are a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think one of the best memories that I had in Amsterdam, this is gonna sound very cliche, but I feel it was the first day arriving because the university organized a shuttle bus from the airport. And so I just arrived there with my two suitcases, not knowing anyone. And I just walked out the airport and I saw the shuttle bus and I was like, oh my God, this is my life now. Like that moment of realization when you step out of the plane, like when you go on holiday and you step out of the plane and you're like, oh my God, this is exciting. But then this is your life. This is
Yeah.
gonna be your life for the next 3 4 years. It was such an immense feeling that I still hold this feeling today, and I'm trying to relive it once in a while. But I think it's just as simple as that. Or I remember one time, me and two dear friends, we were just sitting at the canal, random after university, and again, it was this moment of like, this is my life now. Like it's crazy. It's a beautiful feeling that we should all keep in our everyday life still. But these simple things, yeah. I know it. I don't know if that's the answer you hope
Yeah,
for,
it does.
but
It does. And it's really beautiful, I
yeah,
think. It's exactly what studying abroad should be and
yeah,
should feel
yeah,
like?
yeah.
With that being said, thank you so much for being in
Thank
the
you for having
podcast
me.
once again.
Yeah,
Your stories and your experience will truly inspire so many
I hope
people.
so. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Global Study Talks. If you are interested in studying abroad, check out educations.com and get all the help you need in every part of your study abroad journey. See you next time.